हरि ओम।
हरिओम।
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 हरिओम। हरिओम।
हरिओम।
हरि ओम जी एवरीबॉडी।
Japanese, they say konnichiwa. Konnichiwa.
कोनिचिवा कोनिचिवा।
Konnichiwa.
So I'm in Japan right now. So when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Okay, let's start. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Okay. Hari Om, welcome back. We're meeting after 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks. So, as usual, are there any questions? We'll start off with any questions. If there are, we were in the middle of the law of karma, the law of causation, the chapter on karma. Are there any questions?
उत्सव जी, सबसे पहले तो आपका बहुत बहुत आभार कि आप जापान में होते हुए भी आप यहाँ हैं, हमारे साथ हैं। और एक दफ़ा आपने ये सवाल उठाया था कि जो हमारे जो पोल्यूशन है, घर से ही शुरू होती है। पोल्यूशन पोल्यूशन कौन सी है? जो किचन से बहुत कुछ निकलता है। आपने इसके बारे में जिक्र किया था। मैंने आपको इसलिए ये क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूँ कि आप अभी जापान में हैं। जापान इज़ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट क्लीन कंट्री इन द वर्ल्ड। और वो क्लीनलीनेस कैसे मेंटेन करते हैं कि आज दिल्ली की समस्या इतनी ज़्यादा है कि पोल्यूशन, वो ढूंढ रहे हैं कि क्या क्या कारण है उसके। उसमें सबसे बड़ा पोल्यूशन का कारण यही है, जो गार्बेज, वो उनको समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि गार्बेज को कंट्रोल कैसे करना है, उसको डिस्पोज ऑफ कैसे करना है। दे थिंक फायर इज एन एलिमेंट विच कैन कंज्यूम द गार्बेज। नो, दैट इज नॉट द, बिकॉज फायर अगेन पोल्यूट्स। तो मैं चाहूँगा कि आप जापान में हैं तो आप इसके विषय के ऊपर आप थोड़ा ध्यान दें और सबको जागृत करें। ये समस्या बहुत बड़ी है। स्पिरिचुअल
Correct.
बातें तो होती रहेंगी, ये बाकी स्पिरिचुअल क्वेश्चन भी हैं।
हाँ,
सॉरी किसी
बातें
को
तो होती रहेंगी। नहीं नहीं, बट आपने बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ कही है, इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ कही है। मैं ऑफ कोर्स दिस इज नॉट द सब्जेक्ट, बट वी विल स्पेंड 2 minutes डिस्कसिंग दैट। सी आई पर्सनली आई लव जापान। ओके, ये मैं सेकेंड टाइम आ रहा हूँ एंड मैं जापान के शहर क्योटो में हूँ और मैंने अपने सारे दूसरे प्लान्स कैंसिल कर दिए, सिर्फ क्योटो में ही रह रहा हूँ पिछले 7 दिनों से। तो यहाँ मतलब भाई करने के लिए तो बहुत कुछ है, बट यहाँ रहने में भी बहुत मज़ा है। एंड आई वाज जस्ट थिंकिंग द अदर डे कि ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई, नो कल्चर इज परफेक्ट, एवरी कल्चर हैज़ great things about it, every culture has not so great things about it, things it could improve. And but if I had to choose, say, my ideal world, Japanese culture would be a big part of it, you know and उसमें से what is that about Japanese culture which is a big part of it is their sense of duty, their sense of etiquette, their sense of consciousness. मैं आपको एक इंसिडेंट बताता हूँ। पिछले बार जब मैं जापान आया था, इस बार नहीं, पिछले बार जब मैं जापान आया था तब से एक इंसिडेंट है, मुझे अभी याद है। हम ना एक टूर बस में थे, हम मतलब 30-35 लोग थे एक टूर पे। तो एक टूर बस में हम जा रहे थे, हमारे जो ड्राइवर भी थे बहुत ही मतलब सज्जन लोग थे। सो ही वाज सो जेंटल एंड चलाते चलाते उनसे शायद वो साइड में पार्क करना चाह रहे होंगे बस, बिकॉज हम उतरने वाले थे, तो शायद उनसे थोड़ी गलती हो गई या फिर वो टर्न करना चाहते थे तो सामने की गाड़ी से लग गई। सामने एक और गाड़ी थी, हमारी जो बस है वो सामने गाड़ी से लग गई। सो अब दिल्ली में होते तो क्या, प्रदूषण जो छोड़ो, आप इसकी बात करो, दिल्ली में क्या होता है? हाँ,
मार्केट है।
मारपीट, मारने पीटने के पहले बहुत सारी गाली गलौज और गुस्सा, हाँ, परेशानी, 10 लोग इकट्ठा हो जाते हैं, 50-100 लोग इकट्ठा हो जाते हैं, एंड ऑफ कोर्स इट बी अ वेरी टेरेबल थिंग। यहाँ क्या हुआ, यू विल बी शॉक्ड टू नो व्हाट हैपेंड। वो बाहर उतरे, वो एक दूसरे को अपोलोजाइज करने लगे, सॉरी सॉरी सॉरी। ये बंदा अपोलोजाइज कर रहा है, सॉरी मैंने अपनी बस आपकी गाड़ी से टकराई। वो सॉरी बोल रहा है, सॉरी मैं आपकी जगह, मतलब आई केम इन योर वे, आई एम सॉरी। नॉट ओनली दैट, सामने जो गाड़ी था, उसका जो ड्राइवर था, वो हमारे बस के अंदर आया और उसने हम सबको सॉरी बोला। क्यों भगवान जाने। उसने बोला सॉरी बिकॉज हमारी इस चीज की वजह से आपको 10 मिनट लेट हो गया। सो यू कैन लुक एट द कॉन्ट्रास्ट ऑफ कल्चर। यहाँ लोग मतलब they're very courteous, they're very conscious. More than courtesy, it's consciousness that is very impressive, and that also plays into the way in which they manage waste. Like you said, waste management is a big problem. यहाँ ना मतलब लिखा हुआ है, अगर डस्टबिन फुल है प्लीज आप साइड में मत रखो, आप घर ले जाओ। you know, इस देश में सबसे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज, बहुत एक्सपेंसिव चीज होती है वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट। अगर आपके घर में एक सोफा है, हम दिल्ली में क्या करते हैं या फिर इंडिया में क्या करते हैं, घर में कुछ नहीं चाहिए बाहर फेंक दो। हाँ, आप गुड़गांव में देखोगे इतना कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है, अच्छा कंस्ट्रक्शन के बाद अंदर का घर तो इतना अच्छे से बना दिया, सब सीमेंट वेमेंट जो भी टूटा फूटा चीज़ है सब बाहर फेंक दिया, और फिर उठवाते भी नहीं है लोग। 2000 रुपए करके एक गाड़ी बुलाना पड़ता है, वो भी उठवाते नहीं है। अगर वो उठवाते हैं तो क्या होता है, वो जो गाड़ी है वो 5 किलोमीटर दूर जाकर के फेंक देती है रास्ते के साइड में। आप गुड़गांव में देखोगे, आप 2-3 पॉश लोकेलिटी के बाहर जाओगे, फिर एकदम बिकॉज इट्स नॉट रेगुलेटेड। यहाँ क्या है, मुझे कहा गया कि अगर आपके पास एक चेयर भी, जो मैं एक चेयर में बैठा हुआ हूँ, सपोज चेयर की दाम है 100 रुपए, आपको इसको वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में देने के लिए 300 रुपए देने पड़ेंगे, बिकॉज दिस एक्सपेंसिव, एंड आप बाहर फेंक नहीं सकते, आपको आके पुलिस पकड़ लेगी। So there's a lot of consciousness, there's a lot of adherence to a common principle, common values. So there's a lot to learn from this country. I thoroughly enjoy being here, and हमें तो यही करना है जी। हम जब ट्रैवल करते हैं, हम जब दुनिया देखते हैं, तो यही सीखना पड़ता है कि दूसरे कल्चर्स में क्या अच्छा हो रहा है, how they are functioning in a better way, that we have to imbibe, definitely. Okay, any questions? Yeah, Prachi, okay, anyone?
Yes, so in the previous section on law of destiny, it says that Guruji Parthasarthi ji has written, "You are the creator of your destiny, and God has nothing to do with the type of thought, desire, and action emanating from you. And the quality of your activities is entirely your making. You are the architect of your life."
Yes.
And in the next paragraph, he then, draw the contrast between the position of people who believe that God do everything and atheists. And for atheists, he says that, atheists avert that a human being is wholly responsible for whatever happens in life, that human effort is everything, and there is nothing else to it. And Vedanta resolves the difference in their points of view. So, reading through this section, I would say that, the Vedantic point of view perhaps resolves the difference, but, it's almost completely leaning towards the atheist point of view, that the human being, there are difference between the atheist viewpoint and the Vedantic viewpoint. It's a very subtle difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just wanted to...
Are Vedantins atheists? It almost makes you think that we Vedantins are atheists. Fantastic question. Okay, I think it's a good reading of the text. It's a see. I'll just like to point out this is what Manan is. This is exactly what it means to do Manan, reflection. It is trying to, or perhaps this is the starting of Manan, right? You're taking a single idea, a single line, and trying to understand the repercussions of it, the what kind of conclusions trying to draw, and you're trying to reason. Okay, does it make sense? You're doing comparison. You're actually trying to analyze. This is analysis. So I think it's a great question. Um, I'm reminded of an anecdote that Swamiji used to share. He's like, I'll share the conclusion of the anecdote. He said, it's much easier for Vedantins to talk to atheists about Vedanta than to talk to, people who are deeply religious. Uh, because yes, in many ways, you're right that an atheist draws a conclusion based on certain of assumptions that human effort is everything, right? And that's precisely what Vedanta is saying, that human effort is paramount. It's paramount, right? Now I'll just point out to the subtle difference that you're talking about, because in the subtlety lies the whole difference, right? Because in fact, just yesterday I was talking to one of my friends, and I mean, rarely do people ask me. I don't even, I don't encourage. I mean, it's not that I don't want to be that guy who's talking Vedanta all the time, and neither do I ask my, if I'm with my friends, I'll never talk about Vedanta. You won't think I'm a Vedanta teacher or anything. But the rare occasion when someone, sort of switches on the button, and once the button is on, the motor starts. It doesn't stop, you know. So they were asking me about Vedanta, and then they were asking me about God. So a Vedantin is not as much interested in God as they are interested in what is God. Big difference. Big difference, right? I'm not trying to say don't believe in God. I'm saying keep that question alive in you. Keep Bhagwan hai kya? That's the mystery. You have to keep the mystery alive, right? An atheist in their own, they've jumped the gun, as they say in English, right? They've jumped the gun and dismissed, oh, there's no God. Human effort is everything, right? Whereas a Vedantin is one who acknowledges that human effort is an irreplaceable, is an essential aspect to this equation. Human effort is an essential aspect to this equation, right? For two chemicals to react, they have to have certain properties, right? But the fact that they are reacting in a certain manner. There's a law that is governing that reaction, right? So both things are important. Both the chemical with its qualities are important, and the law that governs the reaction of the chemicals is important, right? So similarly, when it comes to, say, karma, right? The human, the individual, his effort is important. It's essential. It's non-negotiable. Things won't react by themselves. It is you who initiate and uh, 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 navigate, right? But there is an underlying law which reciprocates to your action, which ensures that there is a reaction, right? There's almost a governing principle. That is something that the atheists don't think about or dismiss. Oh, okay, whatever is visible, whatever is measurable, whatever is proved by science, I only aver to those laws, right? But something that can't be proven in certain scientific methods, I'll dismiss them, right? In fact, truly, if you have the spirit of a true atheist, you'd be a very good Vedantin. But actually, atheists are they're not truly atheistic. They are how to. I mean, a lot of people who perhaps come to sort of a sense of dismissal about it. Uh, when you engage with them, you perhaps find out some kind of a bias in their thinking, which is making them reject, right? So, for a long way, a Vedantin and an atheist are agreeing on many things. It's just that a Vedantin will extend his reasoning, will extend his, uh, uh, a sense of inquiry into the unknown, right? So, a Vedantin is in love with the mystery of life, whereas an atheist rejects the mystery of life, right? So you're bang on that Vedanta is closer to atheism than it is to, at least from an intellectual perspective. From an intellectual perspective, Vedanta is a lot closer to atheism than it is to an atheistic practice, particularly. But that's when, the devotional practice comes in. That's when the mystery takes over. When the mystery takes over, you get into the realm of bhakti. And when you get into the realm of bhakti, it's a different, it's a different place altogether, right? So, if you're thinking purely from an analytical perspective, yes, Vedanta and atheism go sort of in the same direction for a long way.
So basically, you said that, Vedanta encourages us to ask the question of what is God. And, when we ponder on this mystery, if you on the Vedantic school of thought, you'll probably, get that sense of awe from the Bhakti Bhav. And whatever you can't answer, you'll attribute it to just a mystery. Whereas atheists, they tend to rationalize that as well, this mystery. And there's this term of nihilism, and they just use that. So yeah, I think perhaps that's it.
When you look at, and here you really have to get into individual people and their individual circumstances. But a lot of nihilists, I don't know, it's very um, uh, if you remove bhakti from Vedanta, it's a slippery slope. You can become very nihilistic, right? So it can almost seem as if there's nothing. What's the point? There's no point to anything. It's an illusion. There's no point to it.
Yeah.
Right? So again, I'm bringing back Japan because I've been taking a bunch of tours, and in Japan there are two predominant religions, right? There's Buddhism and there's Shintoism. Okay, and if you ever go on a tour with me, I am that guy who's always asking the guide questions. Okay, so you'll get Pesa Vasool when you go on a tour with me. If you're feeling shy, you don't want to know how to ask the questions, I'll ask it for you. So you should go on tours with me. So I've been asking a lot of questions on all these tours and all of that. So one of the guides, they said, so I said, which is the more predominant religion? He said, there's no predominant religion. People follow both. People are both Shinto and Buddhists. Most people are both Shinto and Buddhists, depending on the day of the week, depending on the time of the year, depending on the occasion. Means they follow both beliefs. And if you look into, sort of the theology, the philosophy of these things, of course, I've not studied it in detail, but one of the guides said Shintoism, people engage in Shintoism as far as their present life is concerned, and things and aspirations and events of the present life is concerned, and they go to Buddhism for the afterlife. Uh, I said, so we're talking about vanilla and strawberry. That means Vedanta is a two-in-one. Uh, it's interested in both the current life as well as the life ahead or the afterlife, right? And I think it's this amalgamation, it's this bringing to sort of the the level you are at. That's what Vedanta does really well, in my personal opinion, which saves one from becoming nihilistic, right? We don't want to intellectualize it and talk in very abstract senses. We want to bring Vedanta to your level and make it relevant to your life, right? So if a certain concept or a certain idea is not relevant to your life right now, if it's not helping you become a better person, shelve it, right? If attachment and detachment and unselfishness and selfishness is what is more relevant to you, that's what you should be dabbling with. Okay. Once you've crossed this sort of uh, level, then you can dabble in the more philosophical ideas. It appeals to both. It appeals to your life right now, as well as it appeals to your contemplation about and it's not that they are mutually exclusive, right? Your sense of what life is all about, and what is there a life after death, and your sense of the continuation of life informs the way you deal with yourself currently. You realize that every action I do today has a consequence tomorrow, right? So how I am today will determine what my future is. That's precisely what the law of destiny is, right? So that's where we ended with the law of karma, that you are a victim of your past. A past you has resulted in the present you. The action of
You're breaking
a
up.
past version of you have resulted. Am I stable now?
Yeah.
Yeah. A past version of Ankit, whatever Ankit did, or maybe the name also wasn't Ankit, maybe it was something else altogether, has resulted in what Ankit is today, right? Physiologically, you see it, right? There's a continuation of DNA, this, that, but even philosophically, right? Right now, it is, I believe today is the end of Pitru Paksha, right?
Last day.
So, last
Today is
day.
last day. Today
Yes, Mahalaya.
Correct.
Amavas.
So, this,
Surya
the sense of
The part
continuation.
where Ankit is an atheist, where he doesn't.
Yeah. So I think I don't know. Someone had asked in class. I think Munmunji had asked in class about Pitru Paksha. And look, even if you don't see, it's difficult to wrap your head around it, right? But if you appreciate that there is a continuation to life, if you uh, um, allow that postulation that life doesn't end with death. The opposite of life is not death. Life has no opposite. The opposite of death is birth. So it's not life and death, it's birth and death. Please
एक्चुअली
remember this.
डेथ का नाम सुनते ही हम इतना घबरा जाते हैं कि सारी उम्र फिक्र ही करते रहते हैं,
सर
लेकिन
आप तो एकदम फिक्र नहीं करते, मेरे को वो मालूम है। हाँ
नहीं, सब लोग
आप
करते हैं, लेकिन हम लोग तैयारी नहीं करते। हमको तैयारी करनी चाहिए। जब हमको ये बताया गया है कि रीइंकार्नेशन होता है, तो उसमें फिर सोचने की कोई गुंजाइश ही नहीं है कि हमको तैयारी करनी चाहिए। जैसे आप जापान गए हैं, इंडिया से तैयारी करके गए होंगे अपना बिस्तर बिस्तर बांध के, तो वहां पर इसी तरह हमको तैयारी करनी पड़ेगी दूसरे जन्म में जाने के लिए। तो तैयारी करने के लिए बहुत कुछ है।
So coming back to what you know, I think an atheist is one who is very sure, right? What saves you from being an atheist is being happy with not knowing. Is there a life after that? I don't know. There is definitely life after that. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Right? I'm told there is. My Vedanta teacher keeps telling me there is. But so, it's okay to not know, and it's okay to not be convinced, right? And that is what will prevent you from sliding down the path of a certain dismissiveness. But iti shushruma purvesham, so have our great teachers told us, that it's worth thinking about, worth considering, that what is death? You can't just disappear into nothingness. What happens to all of you, the non-physical you? There is a non-physical you. We don't think about it enough. We only restrict our being to this physical body, but there is a non-physical you, which is far, far, far bigger than this body. Your mind is it's all over the world.
Subtle is more powerful than the gross.
Infinitely more powerful than the gross. So the non-physical you continues, and that's the theory of reincarnation. There's no way for me to prove it to you, and that's what Pitru Paksha is. You have this non-physical ancestors, the non-physical aspect of your ancestors. Your ancestors, their physical aspect, their deha ended with their body, but their non-physical has moved on. In fact, it's moved on to other incarnations. Your great grandfather might actually be a toddler in some other part of the world. God knows. But what you're doing in this period, first of all, is having a sense of gratitude for, well, whatever they have contributed that has resulted in your life. And you're also praying for their passage. You're praying that they have gone ahead on their journey. They have charted their next incarnation. May they be in a world, a life, an environment that is suitable for their evolution. One more thing: when I was on a tour out here in Japan, I was on a Buddhist temple, and it was the mother temple. It was like one of the leading temples. It's like I don't know. Think of Ram Janmabhoomi, or think of the one of the main temples, right? And this mother temple has like a network of 1,000 sort of Buddhist temples throughout Japan. So in this mother temple, there was a funeral ceremony going on, and funeral ceremony, not a funeral ceremony, but actually just like we also have a 13 days puja and multiple things. They have a 49-day ceremony. On the 49th day, they have some ritual, and in that ritual, they are praying precisely for what we talked about. They're praying for the passage of the soul of the departed, right? They're praying for the sukshma sharira. I won't use the word soul. Let's use the actual word. They're praying for the sukshma sharira to get a conducive environment for their spiritual evolution. So there is a one of the followers of Buddha. This is going to take a minute to explain this. One of the followers of Buddha, who there's a whole concept in Buddhism where one of the main followers, he attained enlightenment, but he stayed back to spread the message as opposed to So that strain of Buddhism, so they pray to that deity, that Lord, that enlightened being, that grant it sort of a passage into a conducive environment. May they be born to excel. May they be reborn in a place where they can excel spiritually, where they can gain enlightenment. That's precisely what you're meant to do today in Pitru Paksha, in the culmination. You pray for wherever they are, wherever your ancestors are, in whatever form, they have continued their journey. Wish them well. That's the thought. So of course there are rituals associated with it, and I'm not well versed with these rituals. but I can at least share with you the thought behind them and the thought you ought to maintain during these rituals. Okay, cool. Any further questions?
Thank you.
So I think we started the law of karma last time, and we'll touch upon it again. Right? So we'll just start it all over again. I think we read the first paragraph, but we talked about the word purushartha and prarabdha. There's no harm in going over it again because these are very important concepts, right? So law of karma.
Law of karma. The law of destiny defines the status of a person at any moment of his life with reference to his past from that moment, whereas the law of karma is an extension of the law of destiny into the future. Both the laws are based on the principle of cause and effect. The law of destiny states that you are at present the product of your past. The law of karma reaches further to state that you are not only the product of your past but the producer of your future as well. Destiny covers only the past and present, while karma covers the past, present, and future. With reference to your past, you are a product, a slave. But with reference to your future, you are a producer, a master. You are the son of your father as well as the father of your son. You are a son, father, product, producer at the same time. Looking back into your past, you develop pessimism. Looking ahead into your future, you gain optimism. With the knowledge of the law of karma, you begin to realize that your shortcomings and difficulties are the creation of your past unintelligent activities, and that you have now the opportunity to create a better future for yourself, that you are the master of your destiny.
See, I just like to point out here two things, right? Because first of all, it's important to take this out from being an intellectual concept and bring it to relevance in our lives. I think it is Yashoji who always says, "How do I stop that thought from coming? How do I? मैं जितना भी पढ़ूं हमेशा वो negative thought आ जाता है मैं कैसे रोकूं?" See, you have to appreciate that any thought that arises in you, any feeling that arises in you, is coming from the past. The sum total of your past way of being, the sum total of your past beliefs and actions will be the seeds you have planted, and that is precisely what will sprout. But what you can control, what is in your hands, is how you let them grow in the future, into the future. So how you entertain them in the present. So don't feel bad if you have a negative thought. How can I think like this? It's okay. Everyone has negative thoughts. Don't beat yourself over it. You have to have that level of objectivity with yourself. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And it's not the end. Life is so forgiving. Life has given you the gift of the present. Life has given you the gift of the present to change course, to alter, to steer yourself in the way you want to be. Right? So while the past is a flood, and what is a flood? A flood is difficult to manage. There'll be all sorts of thoughts, there'll be all sorts of intentions. But you, first of all, have to be strong enough to deal with the flood. That's the purpose of our study, that's the purpose of our constant shravana. And also have an understanding that it's not the past you should be that concerned with, but rather the future, right? One more concept when people talk about karma is that ये तो तुम्हारा कर्म है, तुमने पास्ट में कुछ किया होगा, अब तो भुगतना पड़ेगा. दिस आइडिया ऑफ भुगतना पड़ेगा, लोगों को बड़ा मजा आता है जब दूसरे लोग भुगतते हैं. दूसरे लोग सफर करते हैं. It's almost a sadistic happiness we get, उसको तो उसके कर्म के फल मिल रहे हैं. अशोचानन वशोचस्त्वम प्रज्ञावादांश भाष्य. खुद हमारे साथ होता है तो हम रोने लगते हैं, बट दूसरे पे आते हैं तो हम ज्ञानी बन जाते हैं. वेरी ऑब्जेक्टिव. See, there's no law that you have to suffer for your past. What I'm saying is, and please understand what I'm trying to say. When you see someone else, or even when you see yourself, right? No suffering is necessary. If you can help another alleviate the suffering, yes, for whatever they have done in their past, वो आज भुगत रहे हैं, right? But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be have a sense of empathy. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do your best to alleviate their suffering, to help them not suffer as much. So there's no thing that जो आपने पास्ट में किया है उसकी वजह से आपको सफरिंग तो नेसेसरी है. इट्स लाइक व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज कि अगर गलती से कुछ हो गया और शायद आई डोंट नो आपका हाथ जल जाए, राइट? सपोज आपने गरम प्लेट पे हाथ रख दिया, आपने एक गलती की, उसकी वजह से आपका हाथ जल गया. इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप प्लेट पे हाथ रखे रखो. No amount of suffering is necessary, because we have this concept in, especially when we think about religion, about suffering is necessary, we have to go through this suffering. There's no such thing, especially when it comes to dealing with others, right? Their karma is their karma. Your job is to have empathy, your job is to have oneness, your job is to not hate, your job is to help, right? So people often relate karma with suffering. First of all, there is no God that is making you suffer. That has been cleared in the previous section, right? कोई भगवान नहीं है जो डिसाइड कर रहा है कि ये होना चाहिए, ये नहीं होना चाहिए, इसके साथ ऐसा होना चाहिए, इतने समय के लिए होना चाहिए. कोई भगवान नहीं है जी. भगवान खाली वो आधार है. God is only that substratum, that enabler of the law that functions meticulously. कोई गॉड डिसाइड नहीं कर रहा है कि इसकी शक्ल मुझे अच्छी लगती है, इसने बहुत पैसे चढ़ाए, इसने बहुत अच्छा किया है, इसको इतने पुण्य दो. कोई भगवान ऐसा नहीं है. भगवान के पास इतना टाइम नहीं है. एंड सफरिंग इज नॉट नेसेसरी. If you can alleviate someone else's suffering, doesn't matter what they've done in the past, help them, empathize, support them. Because otherwise we often have this concept of suffering along with karma, which is a misconception. Okay, so you are a victim of your past, but you control your future. And the stronger you are in dealing with the flood of the past, the better you will be in shaping the future. Right? The flood of the past, the push of the past is what is called prarabdha. The flood of the past is called prarabdha. You are a victim of your prarabdha. You have to go through your prarabdha. You have to experience your prarabdha. But you also have the capacity to build purushartha, self-effort. That capacity to steer yourself in a different direction. That capacity to endure your prarabdha and take a new course. Both forces are in you, right? So he's going to talk about right now prarabdha and purushartha.
A human being, therefore, is bound by his own past while free to act as he wills. Freedom and bondage seem to coexist in one person. Thus, you are a product of your past. You also possess a free will to act as you please. There are two forces operating in your life. the one from the past that has shaped your destiny, known as prarabdha, the other which gives you the freedom to choose your action, purushartha. Your purushartha chooses your course of action, and the actions executed already by your purushartha self-efforts result in your prarabdha destiny. Your destiny is thus the cumulative effect of all your past self-efforts. Whatever has been the nature and quality of your effort in the past, the same will be reflected in your present destiny. If your physical, mental, and intellectual activities have been positive, you meet with a positive destiny. If negative, you meet a negative destiny. If partly positive and partly negative, your destiny takes the same proportion.
It's a mystery how this law functions, but it functions. So your purushartha is your capacity to act in the present, independent of your prarabdha. But what is also interesting is that your prarabdha is nothing but the sum total of your past purusharthas. The sum total of your past purusharthas is your prarabdha. And your purushartha today is your capacity to act independent of your prarabdha. Therefore, what you do today and tomorrow and day after will determine how you are 4 days from now. Of course, along with the force of the past. It's constantly adding to it. It's constantly adding to it. It's like mixing color in water, right? You mix black, 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 it'll turn black. And you change the color. White, 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 white. It won't immediately turn white. First it'll take several shades of gray. But if you keep adding white, God knows, after a long time, it will take a time. It'll turn completely white. Before turning completely white, it'll become whitish. Right? There'll be a time it'll turn whitish. So, point is, with every drop, with every purushartha, your prarabdha also is getting transformed, is getting changed. Right? So, nobody has a completely positive destiny. Nobody has a completely negative destiny. Nobody is 100%. Everyone is a mixture. Everybody is a mixture. We are always looking at others, and others only show what is good. They don't show what is bad. And we always think, I wish my life was like that. Everybody is come see, come some. Positive or negative. Stop worrying about others. If partly positive and partly negative, your destiny is in that proportion.
So enduring prarabdha, you just said some time back, this only helps you to understand that whatever you are doing now will have a effect in the future. So you create a better prarabdha for the future. Otherwise, so what as Ankit said, that it makes more sense to believe in Purusharth only because that is dealing with your present life. So that you do things right and you should do things right. That is basically पुरुषार्थ में तो आप खुद मेहनत करके अपना काम करेंगे, हम बिलीव नहीं करेंगे देयर इज सम, बट ये जो इंड्योरिंग प्रारब्ध ये हेल्प हमको ऐसे करता है कि हम जो अभी सही करेंगे वो मेरे आगे की जर्नी में हेल्प करेगा.
एब्सोल्युटली. ऑल्सो कि जो पहले हो गया वो मेरे हाथ में नहीं है.
हाँ,
और see, I use the term an earlier version of you, an earlier you, an earlier version of you took certain choices. It's a new you today. आज के यशु और 10 साल पहले के यशु में बहुत फर्क है. वो कोई और था. उसने उसकी सोच के हिसाब से कुछ निर्णय लिए थे, कुछ डिसीजंस लिए थे, कुछ चॉइसेस लिए थे. आज एक नया इशू यहाँ पे है, right? So don't beat yourself over the past. You have be conscious of your purushartha today. That yes, of course, while things you did in the past have a certain residual effect, have a certain impact in your life today. You made for certain financial decisions, they have a certain impact today. You made certain decisions as far as career, they have an impact today. They are continuing to have an effect today. But today you can take certain decisions which will minimize the impact of that, perhaps, and altogether chart your new course. That's what I meant by endure prarabdha. Yeah, Prachi.
Okay. So when we speak about prarabdha and purushart, um, the question which sometimes comes up is that, we, say, for example, someone who's the victim of some heinous crime or meets with an unfortunate accident, or child who's born with some genetic uh, abnormality and died early or something, there'll be one school of thought where people will say, ये तो इसका भाग्य था, and just attributed to some, like, unknown mystery, or just like something which you can't really do something about, or which is like, just a mystery. And there'll be another sect which says that, इसका कर्म का ये कोई ना कोई फल होगा. It seems something like a little bit of blaming that person, or sort of like saying that, that person had some, like, role in whatever befell them. And I mean, in these type of situations, and so where would we really, like, how should we, like, think of Purushart and Prarabdha in such situations?
So as I said, there is no need to suffer, right? That's why I mentioned that idea of immediately people think of karma, they think of suffering and necessary suffering, right? The fact that the way a person is today is a result of their past is a fact, but that shouldn't alter the way in which you deal with them in the present. Say, for example, if someone has a certain, I'll tell you both ways, right? So someone has a certain abnormality, someone has no vision. And you don't sit in a high seat and say, oh, that was their past karma, and that's why they are the way they are. No. So what do you have to do with their past karma? And I mean, who are you to sit in judgment of that? Your job is to be empathetic, and your job is to support them through, in whatever way you can, if they need your support. A lot of blind people don't need anyone's support. They are
So we
they are
help them, so we will help them, sir. But वो हमारी मन में तो ये आता है ना कि जरूर इसके पुराने जन्म के ऐसे थे, इसलिए ऐसा ये ब्लाइंड हो गया. That doesn't mean I'm not helping him. I'm helping, but मेरे मन में आता है ये बात कि इसने ऐसा कुछ खराब किया होगा, इसलिए उसको ऐसा हुआ.
देखिए, हम सोचते हैं कि वी ऑलवेज थिंक ऑफ कर्मा एज 1:1. कुछ ऐसा किया हुआ तो ऐसा हुआ है. कर्मा इज नॉट 1:1. कर्मा इज क्यूमुलेटिव. आप अगर कुछ करते हो तो वो आपके टोटल एफर्ट में ऐड हो जाता है. इट्स नॉट 1:1.
So it's not just about, see,
And
Aman,
it's impossible to make correlation. Please, it's almost impossible to make correlation.
sorry.
Who can say, okay, what I did 20 years ago is resulting in, see, point is you have to have a very, very deep, sharp intellect to make that correlation. It's almost impossible. See, physiological things also, you need an expert to determine. Say, for example, you'll go to a physiotherapist, then he'll see the way you're walking, and then he'll say, oh, 20 years you've been walking like this, that's why there is a certain ache in your shoulder blade. आप देखिए आपका पॉस्चर देखिए, even a physiological thing, it takes an expert to come and diagnose that. Even then, is the diagnosis correct or not, God knows. There are many differing opinions in it. हम साइकोलॉजिकल की भी बात नहीं कर रहे, हम तो फिलोसॉफिकल की बात कर रहे हैं, हम स्पिरिचुअल की बात कर रहे हैं. इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू ड्रॉ सच कंक्लूजन्स कि इसकी वजह से ये हुआ है. दैट डजंट मीन लॉ नहीं है. ऑल आई एम सेइंग इज, इफ दैट थॉट कम्स इनटू योर माइंड ना कि इसने तो कुछ गलत किया होगा, इसकी वजह से ये हो रहा है, इट्स टाइम टू टेल योरसेल्फ इट डजंट मैटर बिकॉज यू कैन नॉट कॉम्प्रिहेंड इट. देयर इज नो पॉइंट, राइट? देयर इज नो पॉइंट.
Yeah, but sometimes, sorry,
yeah.
I was saying that sometimes this thought also comes that everybody blames whatever is happening, like we are talking, it's your past karma. But might be something you're doing it for the first time also. So that is
100%.
creating your future. So everybody is only talking about that's your past karma. Like if somebody has cheated you, will say that तुम भी उसको पिछले जन्म में जरूर चीट किए होंगे, तो you know he's taking cheating you or something. But it might be the first time he's doing that in this life.
Correct. So see, precisely why the idea of this law of causation, the law of karma, is not so much to dwell on the past and make such correlations, but rather to realize, not to get antagonistic कि ये मेरे साथ क्यों हो रहा है, कि मेरे साथ ही स्पेशल ट्रीटमेंट हो रहा है, भगवान मेरे को ही पसंद नहीं करते इसलिए मेरे साथ नहीं. भाई सबके लिए एक ही लॉ है. आप पूरा समझ नहीं सकते, बट एक कॉम्प्लेक्स कलाइडोस्कोप एक लॉ है ये. एंड ऑल द रिजल्ट ऑफ योर पास्ट हैज रिजल्टेड इन यू कांट मेक सेंस ऑफ इट, बट एवरीवनस ऑन द सेम लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड. दैट्स वन थिंग. सो यू डोंट थिंक कि मेरे साथ ही हो रहा है ये. सेकंड इज, आई विल कंट्रोल माय फ्यूचर. If you ask me, those are the only two things that is important. Not to think about मैंने क्या किया पास्ट में, क्या
सोने के लिए मशीन में
मैंने आपको पास में. I think I have see people get into all sorts of things. They go into to really understand karma. You know, there's a concept. People go into past life regressions and this and that. And again, I don't have any strong opinions on any of these things. But Vedanta teaches you to not dwell in the past. The past is dead. It's finished. Forget it. If you can learn from it, learn from it.
एक्चुअली पास सिटिंग ऑन योर हेड लाइक एन एलिफेंट. इतना भार है उसका कि देखिए आप रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी से बहुत कुछ सीख सकते हैं. इतना कुछ हमको कंफ्यूज करने की जरूरत नहीं है. हम रोज नहाते हैं, नहा के क्या करते हैं, अपने शरीर को साफ करते हैं. अब गंदगी, जो रोज की गंदगी हमारे शरीर में आती है, उसको साफ करते हैं, साबुन लगाते हैं, तेल लगाते हैं, सब कुछ लगाते हैं. तो इसी तरह अगर हम सोचते रहें अपने फ्यूचर को बनाने के लिए क्या करेंगे, हमने देखिए बहुत सिंपल सिंपल रूल्स दिए हुए हैं मिस्टिक्स ने. 5 शुद्धियां करो: शरीर शुद्धि, वाक शुद्धि, भाव शुद्धि, विचार शुद्धि, आत्म शुद्धि. अभी आत्म शुद्धि हम कर रहे हैं. हम आत्म शुद्धि को भी हमको ध्यान देना है, लेकिन ये नहीं कि आत्म शुद्धि को ही पूरा ध्यान देते हैं. शरीर की शुद्धि को भी देंगे, भाव की शुद्धि को भी देंगे, और विचार की शुद्धि को भी देंगे. तो करते 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 धीरे धीरे अगर हम करते रहेंगे, अपने आप ही हम एक बहुत अच्छे इंसान बन जाएंगे. अगले जन्म के लिए हम तैयारी कर रहे हैं, पूरी कर रहे हैं कि अपने आप को हम किसी भी गलत चीज में इन्वॉल्व नहीं होते. अगर जितना इन्वॉल्व होंगे उतना कंफ्यूज होंगे हम. मेरा तो ये विचार है.
Correct. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, this, you know, second thing also कि हम हर चीज में कर्मा को ले आते हैं. And generally it's when something is not working out. कोई एबनॉर्मेलिटी हो गई, कोई परेशानी हो गई, कुछ खराब हो गया, तभी हम कर्मा के बारे में सोचते हैं. We are always looking for something, if not someone else, then something beyond my control to blame. Right? So now we have medical science also to give us some level of explanation of things. We don't have to go into all sorts of suppositions. But first and foremost, why do we assume that we have to have a perfectly functioning body? It's a question worth asking. Huh? It's a question worth asking. Why do we assume that we have to be born with a perfect body? Everything should be working fine. It's a very philosophical question, if you ask me. I'm not wishing that anyone is born with an abnormality. हाँ, but we are quick to blame God. हाँ, भगवान पे blame डाल दो. आपने मेरे साथ ऐसा किया. We see the definition of this word according to Vedanta is dvandva. Dvandva means opposite. This world is an admixture of opposites: pleasure and pain, good quality and bad quality, profit and loss, joy and sorrow, things working fine, things not working fine. You can't have things always working fine. It's not possible, right? So you don't have to overthink कि हाँ ये मेरे साथ हो रहा है because मैंने ना 6 जन्म पहले ऐसा किया था, right? देखिए शास्त्रों में ना बहुत कहानियां दी गई हैं, बहुत पैराबल्स दिए गए हैं, एंड ब्यूटीफुली इट्स सेड कि 6 जन्म पहले कुछ हुआ था, इसकी वजह से अभी एक घटना घट रही है. बट उसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि हम हर घट every we look for some explanation from the past for what is happening in the present. The only reason for those parables is to inadvertently highlight that nobody is 100% perfect, nobody is 100% good, nobody is 100% bad. Generally आपको मिलेगा कि this is an example given for rakshasas or for asuras, कि कोई असुर क्यों बना. You'll see this concept of linking it to a past because of some asuras, कि इस जन्म में वो असुर है because 3 जन्म पहले कुछ हुआ था. Only to highlight that asurs are not 100% negative. वो in Christianity में एक concept है eternal damnation, कि मतलब someone is doomed forever. There's no eternal damnation, neither is there 100% evil. No. It's only to call on us to be sympathetic, कि for certain past occurrences a person is dealing with a certain scenario in the present. As an individual, I have to be sympathetic, I have to be empathetic if I can. That's it. Or not to sit in a high chair and justify कि you are suffering because of your past actions. That's no. You are also suffering because of your own past actions. Imagine if everyone started giving you that explanation whenever you're having a bad time. It's the worst thing you can do, right? So take out this concept from your head. Yes, Prachi, you have a question. Sorry, you had your hand raised.
No, I was just saying that not only for others, but for ourselves also, when we don't have something to explain our situation with, or when something is just not, we don't know the reason for something, then we just try to explain it with concepts like, I must have done something wrong. Or, we either guilt trip ourselves or self-pity ourselves that I must have done something wrong in the past, which is why I'm suffering now. So even to come out of this, it's what is a better way to think than to sort of use this law as a thing. Instead, what is a more what is a better way to
The
think?
fact that you may have done something in the past is a fact. But the fact that you are suffering right now and you should suffer is not necessary.
Yeah.
Means that if you're suffering, find help. Alleviate that suffering.
Sir, can it also be that what happens in the future is, it may not be pleasant for you just now, but it may be for your better development? For
100%.
I mean, it doesn't have to be from the past. I don't call it a bad, a certain circumstance may be, because it is going to help you in your future development, which you may have just passed by.
Correct. And this is where the concept of surrender comes in, right? You, in your present understanding, can't fully comprehend the the consequence of something. Suppose you're in high school and you really want to go to a particular college. This happens all the time. For 5 years, for 20 years, your parents have drilled it into you. You go to this college, go to this college, go to this college. What's happening? Accumulation of desire, accumulation of thought. I want to go here, I want to go. And you don't get into the entrance test. You don't get admission. What will happen? My life is meaningless. I've lost all purpose. I'm terrible. I'm not worth it. All these thoughts will plague your head. All these thoughts will plague your head, and this is what happens to us all the time. Things we really want or want a certain way don't end up being that way. And the reason we feel so despondent is because we've accumulated all this desire and expectation of how it should happen, right? But look at your own life and look at the past. Look at the turns it took, which you couldn't see at that point. You're doing totally fine. You know, any problem in your life, 10 years later, you usually be laughing about it. You'll generally be looking back and saying, "Oh gosh, what a time that was." Because life has a funny way of working itself out. So you have to have a spirit of surrender that I don't know what nature has in store for me. Yeah, I don't know where this certain scenario or circumstance will lead me, but I'm just going to surrender to life, right? A lot of our despondency, a lot of our disappointment, a lot of our sense of dejection comes from the expectations we build in our own head rather than anything in actuality, right? We build castles in the air and those castles are destroyed and we feel gutted. So with a little bit of surrender, you'll be able to enjoy life as is. You'll be able to appreciate the smaller things, more beautiful things. Life is not that complicated. Life is quite simple. We make it complicated with our desires and expectations. Yeah, Prachi, you had your hand up again. No? I think it's Rabindranath Tagore who says, "Thank you, Lord, for not fulfilling my desire." I don't know the exact Bengali phrase, but he said, "Thank you, God, for not fulfilling my desire." Because that led me down a totally different path and opened me up to a totally different world. So, learn to live life as an autumn leaf. You know, an autumn leaf? It's light, it floats wherever the wind takes it. Surrender to life. That's spirit. Okay. Okay, we'll just take one more paragraph.
Destiny is similar to your bank balance and self-effort to your capacity to earn or lose money, to credit or debit your account. Your bank balance at any point of time is the aggregate of all your credits and debits prior to that moment. Regardless of your balance showing credit or debit, your capacity to earn or lose remains independent of it. You could earn more and increase your balance, or withdraw more and decrease it. Likewise, regardless of your present status, you could put in positive effort and evolve spiritually, or indulge in negative effort and devolve. The law of karma goes on. Hence, it is your effort that makes the difference to your destiny. Few understand this law. They meekly attribute their success or failure to God, not realizing that God is merely the substratum of activity and has nothing to do with the nature or quality of activity. God is like the sun above. The sun is the source of activity. Sinner or saint draws his vitality from the sun. The sun provides them both the energy to act. The sinner in a vicious way, the saint in a virtuous way. Thus beings act according to their independent nature. You cannot commend or condemn the sun for their particular deeds. The sun stands clear from vice and virtue of the world. So does God, though supporting everything, remain immaculate, free from the happenings in the world.
So, in conclusion, and we'll conclude out here. We'll continue this section in the next class. But in conclusion, what's important to understand is that the law of causation is not an explanation of your past. The fact that there is a law which sustains and maintains a sense of causation, you may not be able to comprehend it. You may not be able to add the dots. Oh, this cause is leading to this effect. Don't get into that rut. The importance of this law is to understand that you are a maker of your destiny. While a past you has resulted in your present destiny, this present you is a maker of your future destiny. And your effort is what makes all the difference. There is no God that has special interest in your destiny. God is the substratum, adhar, as I said, of the activity. Right? So stop blaming God and stop believing that God will make it happen. You will make it happen or not make it happen. It is your effort that is paramount. That's the law of causation in a nutshell. Right? Okay, we'll conclude out here. And let me see if we can squeeze in another class. I'll try to squeeze in class on Friday, but I'll let you know about that. I might have to travel. Yeah, a little earlier than this will be very impossible almost. But let me plan this. Okay, are people okay with 7 to 8? Is that okay? People are good. Okay, so we'll try to see if 7 to 8 is doable that day, because
Yeah, 7 to 8 is perfect. Yeah.
so I'll keep you posted and see if we can have class on Friday 7 to 8. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you
All
in the
right.
next.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for taking this effort.
Thank you.